One.
Hey, we're going to look at the formation and evolution of a hurricane. And so I've decided to look at Hurricane Maria, which was the one that devastated Puerto Rico in 2017. So I have set the Wayback Machine here to 2017, 9:15 at about 2200 local time here. And I put the circle over here. This is where the hurricane is going to form, but it hasn't formed yet. There's something over here, some kind of a tropical disturbance. There's another hurricane, it looks like, up over here. There's another storm way over here. But we're going to be looking at this particular one. So we're looking in this area, and this is the area of the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ. You can see the trade winds converging from two directions here, and this little area right in here is where this one's going to form. They can form in different ways. You can also have a trough from middle latitudes that intrudes down into the tropics here, but that's not the case in this situation. So there's a couple of things you need in order to form a hurricane. One of the things you need is very warm water in the ocean. So let's set the mode to ocean, and we'll put the currents on there, and then sea surface temperature right there. And so now we're looking at sea surface temperature, and we can see in this area right over here, the sea surface temperature is about 29 degrees Celsius. So that's plenty hot enough for us to form a hurricane. It has to be above about 27 degrees, which is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's pretty warm water right there. Another thing is that it has to be more than about 5 degrees away from the equator. And that would be right about in here somewhere. So we are more than 5 degrees from the equator. The reason for that is if you're too close to the equator, there's not enough Coriolis effect to get the rotation that you need on these things. Oopsie. Okay, zooming back in here. Okay, so we're back to looking at the wind, and so you can see the wind streamlines here. And the thing to look at is this feature right here. This is one of these waves, an easterly wave. So what happens is these little waves form and they move from east to west across the ocean. And this is where it's going to initiate the process of hurricane formation. So as these little lines converge here, you're going to get convergence of the air at the surface, and that is going to force it to rise, and that can lead to the formation of a low pressure system. So let's see what happens if we step forward a few hours here. So we'll just step forward here, and now you can see that little easterly wave even better. Let's step forward a little bit more. And now you can see it's starting to have a little bit of this rotation to it. So let's check the pressure then. We can change this to mean sea level pressure. And can't really see too much yet. But as we continue to step through here, you'll start to see this get a little bit more organized and a little bit darker right in here where the lower pressure is forming. So let's continue forward. Now you can see it getting a little bit more strong here. So this is basically a tropical depression that has formed, and it's going to eventually strengthen into a tropical storm and then a hurricane. So let's see what happens as we go forward here. And it's continuing to move, kind of drifting westward toward these islands here. Now, another thing that you need in order to keep this tropical depression going is you need outflow at the top of the atmosphere, up high. And let's see if we have that. So let's look at the 250 millibar level. And you can see right in our area here, you do have outflow. So you can see the winds they're blowing out from that area. And so that is everything we need in order to keep this hurricane going, or what's going to be a hurricane going. So we'll switch back to the surface now. And let's have a look at a couple of other things. Let's look at the relative humidity. And we see that in this area, we have pretty high relative humidities right there. So what about precipitable water? We see that there's a lot of precipitable water there. So this is very moist air. And cloud water, we can see the clouds are starting to form around here. We can kind of see the shape of that storm taking shape there. So now let's go back to showing the wind at the surface. And currently the winds are not too strong, about 65 kilometers per hour. In this strongest part right there. And let's go a couple days into the future here. So we'll go a day forward, and now we can see that it has strengthened significantly. It's now moved over to here. And if we put our little circle here, we're now at 129 kilometers per hour. So we are a hurricane, and it is blowing pretty hard there. And let's go another day forward. And we'll see that it is now hitting the islands of the Caribbean here. And this random spot, 144 kilometers per hour. So that's a really pretty strong storm as it's crossing across there. And let's go another day forward here. And now we can see it really bearing down on the island of Puerto Rico. And we're going to zoom around here a little bit, get it a little bit closer up there. And I can actually turn off the, turn this off, and you can see where the strongest winds are going to be. So we have winds of upwards of 129 kilometers per hour over here, 131. And now we're going to turn that on, and let's watch it go a little. We'll slow it down though. We'll just go a couple hours at a time and watch it just take a real bullseye right onto the island of Puerto Rico. And you can see it just passed over there as a major storm. And now let's continue. Let's see where it ends up. Let's see where it ends up here. So if we move northward here, let's see what path it follows. We'll step forward a day, and it looks like it's heading towards Florida. And it's veering off to the right now. So it's getting into that belt of westerly winds, and that is going to tend to push it towards the east. And we continue moving along here. Let's see. Eventually, it is going to move all the way over here. It's moving pretty quickly now, and now it's way up here. And it is weakening substantially because we're going across very cool waters up here. And so it's not going to be able to continue to be very strong. And we'll go one more day, and it is now off the scale here. Where would it end up? Somewhere over here, I guess. And that was the path of Hurricane Maria.